Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today for the 5th edition of CoveritLive University. My name is Mr. Kitley, I'm the event specialist here at CoveritLive. We appreciate you joining us today for the latest webinar. I look forward to sharing with you a look at our new CIO Producer Console. Before we get started, I want to provide a brief overview of today's CoveritLive University. Expect the webinar to last 20 to 30 minutes and we'll take questions. During and after in the WebEx client chat window, you can find that at the top drop-down of the WebEx window. Tomorrow we'll post this webinar on the web where you can view it again or refer it to others. Once we have this archived edition, you'll receive an email from us notifying you that it is available. Once again, thanks for joining us. And now I'd like to introduce the host of today's webinar, the General Manager of CoveritLive, Ben Schneider.
Thanks, Spencer, and thanks everyone for joining. As Spencer mentioned, we'll be talking about the new producer experience in this particular session, showing you a little bit about what's coming out very, very soon, beginning of the year, around a new way for producing CoveritLive events and for running your live blogs, chats, Q&A, and other types of events. We'll speak a little bit around what and why we're making some of these changes and how they're going to roll out, as well as go through some of the new features that you'll find in there. There'll be more events and more information being distributed to our customers over the coming weeks as we get ready to roll out the new console and make it available. But we wanted to give you this opportunity today to get a good idea of what's coming and give you the opportunity to know that and also give us some feedback as we start getting ready to launch this in the earlier part of the year. So the first thing to kind of touch on is give you some background around why we're looking and why we're going to be rolling out a new console. So kind of the three main things to note is that the new console is going to allow you to even more easily discover, curate, and publish various and new and different forms of social content. It's also going to enhance your ability to collaborate among multiple contributors. So in the case where you may be running an event where you've invited multiple panelists or you have different producers doing things at the same time, we've added a number of tools to make that much easier and enhance the ability for multiple people to be able to run an event efficiently. And we've overall just improved the user experience that happens inside the console. As we've seen over the last several years with how CoveritLive is being used, there are a lot of still very, very simple live blogs and live text updates that are a good part of what many events are, but more and more events are including more media, including more content from Twitter, Instagram, and other social sources, and we want to find ways to make that easier for you to do as well as easier for you to maintain those events as they're occurring and even after they're over, so that way you can have a fully produced article whenever you're done. To give you a little idea of how it will roll out, it's planning to come out early in 2013, and as we get closer, we'll give you more specifics about when exactly in the new year that it's going to come out, but the launch is planned for early in the year. Whenever you first go to launch your first event, after it's been rolled out, you'll have the option to select the new or the old console, and there will be a lot of messaging that helps guide you through it and even gives you a tour, and I'll show a few examples of that. And you'll also have the ability to switch back and forth. So if say you're in a pinch and you're running an event quickly and you don't have time to check out the new console and you want to use the existing console, then you can continue to do that. And you can even have producers run both for a given event at the same time, given what their familiarity and preference may be. Now over time, our goal is that everybody shifts to using the new console, but we're going to keep that open for quite a while so that way you have the opportunity to adjust and give us feedback, and that we can make sure we address all the common use cases that the current console is used for. So what's in the new console? So there's a number of key features, and I'll show you some examples of these, but I want to give you some of the highlights around what we'll be rolling out early in the year with the new experience. So the first piece is a new moderation and content queue. So right now you currently have the ability to queue comments that come in from your users if you're taking user comments, and put those on hold or review those that have just recently come in. But now with the new moderation queue, you're going to have even more functionality. You'll have the ability to search those comments more easily, to tag them, and to also pull in other types of content that you want to hold or moderate before publishing it to the event, including Twitter and other types of content. Sorry about the little boxer that was blocking some of the content. We'll get that removed in just a second. Another one of the features that we'll be adding is a better way to manage your media library. So in addition to drag and drop capabilities for adding media, video, photo directly into an event, as well as more robust features around how you manage the existing library with filtering and searching and previews. It'll be much, much easier to drop rich multimedia and to manage it throughout the course of your event. There's also a new robust search capability that allows you to search news sources, including the existing ones that we have right now around Twitter and YouTube. We'll also be adding Instagram, Wikipedia, and some other new custom sources, and allow you the ability to insert sources from RSS feeds and other locations to bring in content that may be relevant to your event. And then we've also made it much easier to access analytics for your current event live while it's occurring. Today, you can get access to your event analytics through your account page within the CoveritLive website, but not from within your console. And one of the things that we've enabled with the new console is the ability to jump straight into the statistics for your event and see how your account is running and do all of that from within the new console, as well as still being able to do it from your account page like you can today. Additionally, we've also made a number of other settings and features that have improved the user experience and are more accessible and easier to update through the actual console experience. So at this point, I'd actually like to walk you through some of those and demo some of those. As we jump over here, there we go. This is an example of what you'll see for the very first time as a panelist or a producer that you go to launch the console after it'll be released. So you'll have the opportunity to choose which version you want to use, the existing classic console or the new one with some highlights around what is involved in the new console, what are some of the features, and how does it work. And then once you do launch that new console, you're going to see a lot of help content and a lot of information that helps you guide you around some of what those new features are, as well as the opportunity to take a tour and see and have a guided tour around what some of those features are and how they work. So here I am in the new console, and you can see some of the areas that we talked about. To give you a quick overview, if you look on the left side, you'll see your live event content, and this is exactly as it appears to your audience, and wherever it may be embedded on your site or hosted through a channel page or Facebook. You can see the full event content, including any data, any scoreboards, any news flashes or polls that you have, everything just like your users would encounter it whenever they're viewing the event. So as your event and as your content is published, you will see it come through the window, and there's some changes to the window that I'll also talk about as well. But additionally, you'll see the new Smart Queue or Smart Stream, and some of these names, keep in mind, and some of the exact details of how this functionality looks and works is still changing as we finish it. But right here is where you'll see the moderation queue that has your comments as they come in, or has any particular content that you've searched for and tagged to hold for later. Right now, whenever there's nothing in that particular queue right now, you'll see a message indicating there's no comments or there's nothing recent. It gives you some instructions on how to search and where to go. But then, as content comes in, or as you change your filter settings, then you start to see all that various content coming in. So in this case, Twitter content that I've set up, or if I can filter it down, I can also see comments that may be coming in as well. That content will come in right away. In case of Twitter, if it's new hashtags or users or lists, as those tweets are published, then they will come into the queue. If I've selected to moderate them, or as comments come in, they will automatically be coming in through here. The queue is going to contain anything that you want to hold or tag for later, or anything that's really, really recent that has come into to the event, and I'll show some examples of that. Then on the right side, we have search. This is where you can take existing functionality that we have today, like searching for Twitter content or YouTube content, as well as new social areas like Instagram and Wikipedia or RSS content, and go and look very, very quickly and discover new content that you want to add to your event that may be timely or relevant to the context of what's happening. As you can see, you'll have a lot of help information guiding you on how you can use this and what the different features are, as well as what some of the inline tool capabilities are. Over here on the right side, you see your toolbar. And your toolbar is where you can jump in between other features that you may need to use during the console, such as your media library, your Twitter configuration, polls and trivia, news flashes, scoreboards, managing your panelists, and as I mentioned, statistics. It's also where you can adjust certain settings about the event or grab the embed code or send the email address for directly emailing contributions. All of these things very quickly and easily accessed right within the console from the toolbar. So to walk through some example uses of how this works so you can see these things in action, I've made a demo event from our test environment that has some content coming in. I've configured a few things from Twitter to automatically come in, and that content is now flowing into the queue. So you can see some of my comments that have flowed in right here. And from the queue, I have the ability to very quickly publish that content, or I could remove it altogether, and it won't bring it back up for me again. I could actually edit it and then publish it inline. Or I can also tag it and give that particular piece of content a color code, indicating that I want to come back and use it again later or filter by it, which I'll show some examples of. You also have the ability to use the inline edit to always allow any content from this particular user to come through and auto-approve, to private message the user, or to ban any content and block this user's content from coming through in the future. So you have a lot of powerful features right there very quickly in line on a piece of content, any of the pieces of content that you can see. Similarly, whenever you see that content published into the live stream over here in the window, the actual event, you have inline editing capabilities there as well for content that's already been published. So if I want to come back and make a change to that content, I can do that. And have it saved directly back out and republished into the live event. So not only do you have the ability to quickly edit and then inline publish content from the queue or from a search, as we'll see in a second, but also even once it's been published, you can quickly add it or remove it. Same thing goes for other content such as media, where maybe you want to add captions to images or make other edits such as that. So very quick, much easier, and very powerful, so that way you can constantly adjust your event or remove content that is not desirable or that you need to make updates or adjustments to. So in terms of finding that content, you'll notice that within the queue, I have the ability to filter by different types of content, all the different things that I can search for and all the different ways that content can come in. So I can see all of my recent comments. I can also filter that by just content that comments that have images or came from an email source or came submitted through the API. So if you're using any of those features, you can go selectively look at just those comments to find them more quickly. You can also filter by other types of items, such as RSS, tweets, or any of the items that you can search for on the right-hand side from the search area. Or you can just do a generic search across content. So if I want to find any content that was from Ben, then I can do that. If I want to find content that mentions Texas, for example, I can do that as well. So I can search that across all my content, or I can limit that to just a particular type, say Twitter content. And as you'll notice, whenever you mouse over and get the inline options for content, some pieces of content won't have all of the options. For example, Twitter won't have the ability to edit because due to Twitter terms of service, we're not allowed to alter that content, and so if you're going to publish that, you have to publish it as is. But you can tag it, you can remove it, or you can publish it directly to the event, and again, you can always remove it from the event as well. So say if I want to tag a piece of content, currently what you have are several different colors that you can choose from, or you can remove the tag if it's already been tagged. And what that does, it essentially just assigns a color code to that piece of content that you can use in a way that allows you to organize how you want things produced within your event. And then you can very quickly, from the queue, go to all of your tagged content and see it very quickly, and then you can even filter it by your color codes. So say I want to use orange for things that I'm pulling from Instagram, or maybe it's about a certain team, or if I want to queue it up for certain panelists and say, George, you're going to be handling all the content that's put into the queue that comes from the yellow tag, or Jill, you're going to handle everything that comes from the red tag. So there's a lot of different powerful ways that you could use this, particularly whenever you're collaborating with multiple panelists and producers. And it also gives you a way just to internally find things much more quickly if there's content that you want to queue up but wait for the right moment to publish into your event. So in addition to comments, which will automatically come into the queue, as well as Twitter content that you've pre-configured, the other way that content gets into this queue is through search. So I'll jump over here and show some examples of search. In addition to being able to get recent comments automatically coming into the queue, I can search all of my comments and also filter those again by the same options I have inside the queue, which is images, email, API-oriented comments. I can also filter to just see my published comments, and I can search within that as well. So if I'm getting a large amount of comments coming into the stream and I want to go back and find one from somebody a while back, then I can do that and still publish it. If I want to search and find Twitter content on the fly that I want to publish, I can do that as well. I also have the option to search and limit my searches based on the content including retweets, links, or images only. So say, for example, I search for CoveritLive. Then I can see all of the Twitter content that's coming from CoveritLive and select just the content that I might want to publish. Again, I have the ability to publish it directly into the live event. So it would go into my live event content and everybody would see it right away. Or I could tag this content and it will put it into the hold queue in the smart stream where it will be held for me until I'm ready to publish it or get rid of it later or make a decision later. Similarly, I can also do that same sort of searching based on usernames and Twitter lists and have the same options around excluding replies and including retweets. I can also search something like Instagram and pull in content that is purely image-centric but may be able to complement my event really well. I have the same sort of options there where I could publish that content directly, or I could hold that content and put it into the queue for either me to deal with later or to hand off to one of my panelists, producers, or other contributors. YouTube is also an option. And you also have some additional search options depending upon the nature of what you're searching. So in the case of YouTube, you also have the ability to limit by when it was uploaded. How recently? Is it this month, this week, today? So that way you can further refine your searches. I can search against Wikipedia content and pull up any sort of the entries, and it will pull the Wikipedia summary as well as a link to the full article. And as you'll notice, whenever content is published from these various sources, it includes a citation as to where that content came from in the live event, so that way your users know. So say, for example, I take an Instagram image that I've queued up from an earlier search, and then I publish that into the event. There's an icon noting that that came from Instagram. Similarly, there's an icon for Wikipedia, just like there is branding and notification for things that came from Twitter. And then finally, you can also add content from any reference that you want from RSS feeds. So we have a number of predefined feeds that we have added that will continue to grow over time as we do more data integrations and find great sources that we think make sense for your events. I can pull up any one of those predetermined feeds, and similarly I can tag and hold that content for later, or I can publish it directly to the live event. Or I can add in my own RSS feed and pull content from that. So if you have, say, your own news sources that maybe you want to pull some from, maybe there's a great blogger or some other Twitter account or something like that that you want to be able to reference very, very quickly, you can add that into the RSS opening right here and then pull that content as it makes sense. So through these tools, you can see that we've added a great deal of ability for you to search and pull content from various other sources, and we'll continue to add more different types of social content to these sources, expanding the number of the ways that you can pull from and various different types of content that you can pull in. And then you have the ability, again, to much more easily queue that content, reserve it for the right moment, or publish it immediately inline, or delegate that off to other people who may be working in the event with you. Another thing to note, during the queue, and say you've got a particularly active event with a lot of Twitter content or a lot of comments or both coming in, you have the ability to pause that content. So right up here is a pause play button. Whenever I hit pause, no new content will come in, but as anything updates, I'll get a notification that there's 2 new pieces or there's 3 new pieces of content, but they won't show up into me until I click play again. So if there's a lot coming in at one time and you need the opportunity to stop it and be able to look through it to decide what you want to publish, you can now do that. So in terms of using some of the other capabilities, the media library is now much easier to use and much more robust. As I mentioned earlier, you have the ability to filter by your account, by content that you've uploaded within the account or by all of the content in the account. You also have the ability to limit it by the time, say everything just within the last week versus month versus older. And this allows you to much more easily find media that you've already uploaded and prepared for your event and very quickly pull that over into the live event. You also have the ability to pull content directly into the live event that's not from your media library with a simple drag and drop or a single click. So, for example, I have an image queued up right here. I can drag that simply into the composing area of the console for the event, and that content will get uploaded immediately in the event. I can then add and edit a caption or make any adjustments that I need to, and it will also be included within the media library as a part of my event content that was uploaded. So this is a powerful way to do it very quickly whenever time is of the essence and you want to publish a lot of publish media content very quickly and don't have the time to go put it up into the media library first. Similarly, you can also do a single click and go add that image as well. So a number of ways to much more quickly and efficiently get media into your events as well as manage it ongoing. And just like within search and within the queue, you have all of your standard inline options to queue up content, publish immediately, or modify. Now looking at Twitter, we've actually added a number of new capabilities to how you can have Twitter content automatically come into your event and either be published right away or queued up for your review before publishing. So today, in the current console, you have the ability to search for Twitter content and then publish it, or you have the ability to automatically have content from certain users or lists come through. But we've combined a lot of those capabilities, and as we showed you through the search, you can still do one-off searches for Twitter content and limit it by retweets, links, and images, but that same capability now lives in your auto-tweet configuration. So from here, I can configure usernames, Twitter lists, and add them to content that I want to automatically be pulled in from Twitter. I can remove that at any time. I can also add a filter. So say I want all of the content that comes from a particular Twitter handle or list, but I want it to only have a certain hashtag, then I can do that. I also have the option again for each one of these to indicate whether or not I want to include retweets, whether or not it matters if it contains links or images, or whether or not I want to moderate the Twitter content before it publishes into the event. So this adds a new layer where if you're trusting that content and it's completely safe and you want it to automatically flow into your event, then great, you can do that. But if you want to moderate it first, as you'll see an example that pops through right here, I've got this set to moderate. I've got some other hashtags and things set up, and it's coming into my queue in the smart stream, so that way I can review it first and decide whether or not I want to publish it or remove it. So it gives you a much easier and quicker way to review Twitter content and still have it published very quickly and automatically queued up for you, but not automatically into your event in case you want to review it or check it out first, or only selectively publish some of that content. You can still use our top tweet filter, which will automatically decide on just the most popular, most visible and common tweets, or highest quality, or all. And again, you can still auto-publish that content directly in the event without any moderation at all. So it gives you a great deal of flexibility and much more power around how you use Twitter, and particularly if your content or your event is going to be largely Twitter-centric. To touch on a few other areas, the management for things like polls and news flashes is greatly improved, and you can add them much more quickly. You can also quickly see whenever you have multiple polls. You can filter them down. You can see your polls from your media library very quickly, and therefore publish them directly into the event. And you can also see them right here from within the console. So that way, if you want to end one of those polls or unpublish, you can do that very quickly as well. Very similar setup for news flashes. So you can set up multiple news flashes, you can publish them, and then very quickly turn them on and off or edit them. There's also enhancements around scoreboards, including the ability for you to put more information in around your manual scoreboards, the ability to very quickly edit and then publish those. to add additional detail if you want, to upload logos and other images. And there's more interesting pieces we have coming around scoreboards and some other data sources earlier in the year that will allow you to more easily manage ongoing coverage for things like sports and score updates. In a panelist area, you can jump in and very quickly see who your panelists or producers are that you've invited to the event and whether or not they're online or not, whether or not you need to resend or their invitation or remove their access. And if you have a large number of them, you can very quickly search and find them from within the event here. You can also private message them right down here at the bottom. So I can see and send messages to all of the panelists and producers in the event. Or I can also send a private message to just individual members and panelists and producers as necessary if I need to just communicate with them one-on-one and don't want to confuse all of the other contributors in the event. And then as messages come in, you can see those very quickly. There's an indicator indicating that you have some messages, and you can see that those are coming in. And very quickly review them and respond if you're one of the other panelists or producers. And it makes it much, much more easier to collaborate and control various different types of contributors managing different parts of the event. As we mentioned, there's also the ability to directly access your statistics for the event. So you can see page views and clicks, your concurrent readers as that data comes in around your event, as well as we're looking at adding other different types of content such as how many comments have been submitted. You can obviously see a maximum number of readers and total number of readers and things like that here as well. So you can get that information very quickly directly from the console to understand how your event is performing. And within tools and settings, we've added a number of pieces that just allow you to very quickly, say, grab your embed code if you need to send that to someone or get the contributor address in your event or clear entries, as well as manage other things such as your avatar, the event title, and so on. So the new console gives you a lot more power to quickly and easily manage your event, and also whether it's one individual or whether it's a number of contributors, as well as pull it from various different sources. One other thing I'd like to quickly show around that's in conjunction with the new console is, as you can see from within the console, the new viewer window has some changes as well. With the new ability around more powerful scoring with trivia and polls and news flashes, your users now have the opportunity to filter through and very quickly jump to just the things they're most interested in. So if they're most interested in the scores, then they can see those and rotate through those, or news flashes or polls, or they can close it out if they just want to see the event content and that's what they're most interested in. Similarly, if they want to add comments, we've made more room for the actual live content streaming in, and just whenever they go to add a comment, then it expands and gives them the real estate they need to actually provide that comment or upload media. And then whenever they're done, they can leave it there if they want to continue to contribute, or if they just want to get back to viewing, then they can do that and still very easily see where to add comments, but not have it take up as much screen space away from your live content that's being produced. So there are a number of other features that will be coming very soon as we roll this out, and a lot of other things that we're going to expand this around, and some additional announcements that we'll have whenever it launches at the beginning of the year. But we wanted to take this opportunity today to give you some of the highlights, some of the biggest changes, so you'll be aware of them and start thinking about how they might be useful to you and how they can impact your events. And then as this rolls out and you start using it early in the year, you can give us feedback on things that we can improve, what things you like, and what things that we can do even better. So at this point, we'll jump over, and if there are any questions, you can submit those to the WebEx, and Spencer will queue those up for you. And we'll take this opportunity to remind you that we'll have our next CoveritLive University on January 17th. And at that point, we'll dive deeper into CoveritLive data and analytics, giving you more information around what exactly all those stats mean, how we acquire those, how there can be differences between what your analytics system says versus ours, and what things we have in the future that we want to continue to add and track. So hopefully that will be a helpful session to you and allow you to better understand what all and get more data out of what's happening with your events and how that can be beneficial to you.
All right, thank you, Ben. We encourage you to keep sending questions in through the WebEx chat. You can locate that at the top of your screen on the drop-down. Just type in any questions or comments you have into the chat window, We do have a few so far, so I'm going to get started with those. This first one comes to us from Pat. He's confused as to what the difference in the smart stream and the search columns are. I know you touched on that a bit. Could you review just the exact differences?
Yeah, that's a great question and a good point. So to show it to you, the smart stream is content that is not published to your event, but is being queued up in one of three ways. The first way is that it's content that's coming from your users, comments that they're sending in, if you're allowing that, whether it's through email or whether it's directly from the viewer window, or if you've allowed them to do it through mechanisms through the API. It's content that's coming in through essentially the comment section of your event. And that comment will automatically get queued up inside the SmartStream queue. The second way is for content that comes from Twitter that you want to moderate. So if you've selected to automatically pull in content from Twitter or from a user or a list or a hashtag or search term, and you've indicated that you want to moderate it before it gets published, that content will also flow in here. And then the third way that content gets into this SmartStream queue is if you take anything that you've searched for out of the search area and you've tagged it and indicated that you don't want to publish that right away, but you've tagged it because you want to come back to it later, then it will automatically get placed there as well. So the content that is here will automatically come in if it's comments being submitted. It will automatically come in if it's Twitter content that you've pre-programmed from the auto tweet section. And then the rest of the content that's in here will be manual from things that you've searched for and tagged. So the key thing to know about the queue is that it is your source for automatic content that's recent, as well as content that you've placed and ready to queue up that is ready to be moderated and published into your event at the right time. Search is for you to go find proactively content that you want to inject into the event but isn't coming from any automated source, and it's not coming from users automatically, and is a way for you to go find external content outside the event from any one of these sources manually, and then either publish it directly into the event or queue it up to be reviewed and published later at a later point during the event. So the main difference is search is for you to go actively find and sort of align things and queue them up for publishing later, whereas the queue allows you to take content that's pre-programmed or coming from your users that's automatically flowing into the event, or things that you've queued up and want to publish later from search, and then selectively wait and moderate those and publish them into the live event when you're ready.
I have a few more questions that have come in. One I think we had from Ed McCarthy, and I think he just answered that. He was asking, when using the Twitter feed, is there a way to filter the comments with a specific tag without them automatically being posted? And you did answer that, where you can tag it with one of the colors and it will move into the SmartStream column in the middle. A question comes to us from John. Is there a way for the moderator of the chat to have comments that don't post live? I'm
not sure if I understand what's meant by comment in that situation. If comment is meant like comments between producers and panelists, or if it's meant that you want to essentially have your own comments or text content queued up that's not yet published. So I'm not sure which context that means, but I'll start with the first one. So if it's for comments that you want just because you want other people who are running the event to see, that is what the private message capability is for. So you can have content, nothing that's put into the private messages goes into the event. That's only for people who are collaborating, panelists or producers, who are collaborating on the event to see that content. So if your goal is to communicate with them, then that's the way that you would be able to do that. If the goal is to be able to queue up content that you want published into the event, but you don't want published right away, then you can do that through the media library. You can have text content, just like you can have images or videos or links or anything else. You can have pre-written text content that you add and then is either available in the media library for you to come add and then publish whenever you want, or you can just like anything else, you can queue that content up into the SmartStream, and then just whenever you're ready, whether it's because you've tagged it with a certain color or you search for it, whenever you're ready, publish that into the event. So I'm not sure which one you were meaning by that, but hopefully between those two that gives you an idea either way.
Okay, comment here, or question I should say, from Dave Wassinger. When you publish content from social channels, are those accounts notified when it is published, or is there an option to notify users that their content is being used?
There's not currently. The content that's published from those social sources, it is cited and referenced. You showed an example of that earlier where you have the logo and the link back directly to where the original content source was. But all of the content from those social sources is only content that's publicly available through their APIs, and that is a part of their terms of service of being able to be pulled out publicly and displayed. Much like Twitter content, the vast majority of all of that is public unless you have made your own Twitter account private and you want to only approve those followers that can see you, then that content is approved into Twitter as a part of Twitter's public stream. It is not a part of the public API. So you can't get to that content. The content that is out there is understood and agreed to by the users to be public and can be pulled through their API and into other sources, and that same thing goes for our other social sources like YouTube, Instagram, and so on.
I have a question here from Joel. Will tagged information stay in the smart stream until it is published, or will it eventually cycle out as the other content does as well?
Yeah, so that content by and large will stay in. There is a very large maximum cap on the amount of things total that we'll keep in the smart stream. So we're talking like if you tag thousands of things, then you could potentially then have some of them roll off. And you can still find them back through your search, but they would no longer be in the smart stream. But again, you'd have to get into the thousands for that to be the case. So by and large, all of that content that you tag will stay there unless it just gets to an extreme amount.
All right. Feel free to keep your questions coming. We'll take a few more. Do have one more queued up here from Herb. Are there any plans to incorporate any more content sources in the future, like Facebook or Flickr or other things?
Absolutely. That's a great question, and that is definitely the case. So, in addition to other social sources, Flickr and Facebook are both great examples, and are definitely both ones that we have on the roadmap, as well as looking at other sources as they make APIs available. Another one that's been commonly asked about is Pinterest, and we're obviously limited on what those platforms provide to us as an API or provide us access to, but we are looking at all of those and have them on the roadmap, and as they become available or as they have support for us being able to pull that content in, we will definitely be adding them. Also, to note that in the RSS section, I pointed out a couple of suggested feeds that we've already pre-populated, and we'll continue to grow that. We have a number of other types of feeds that we'll be including that will allow you, depending upon the type of event that you're running, to review and pull content in from those sources as well. And you can also add your own, obviously, if they're RSS-based. Okay, so there's another question around Elgin from making the live box in the 3 bigger. So that's a good question as well. One thing to note that doesn't demo very well on a WebEx presentation now is another new feature of the console, which hopefully you can kind of see here, is that the console expands to fit your screen resolution and the available real estate. So if you were to run your event from, say, an iPad or a much smaller screen, then it will collapse down to 2 panels, and you can get to the queue through the toolbar, as well as all the other areas that we showed for management. But if your screen is larger, then it will take up as much space as possible, and then you have a designated place for the queue and as well as for the search area. So in general, we'll attempt to take up as much space as possible and grow it as much as possible. The live events can't get substantially larger because of the other tools and obviously things on the page, but as much as possible we try to maximize your real estate and make it to where as much of the screen space is available to us, we try to use that and allow the screens to grow with that and be responsive.
I don't think we have any further questions. We thank you for joining us. We'd really appreciate your feedback. If you keep your eyes on your email, we'll be sending out CIOU archive information as well as a survey on what you do and don't like and suggestions for further CIOU sessions. Our next session, as Ben mentioned earlier, is Thursday, January 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern, where we will take a dive into CoveritLive data and statistics and analyzing that information. So, thank you to Ben. Thank you for joining us today. Have a happy holiday season, and we'll see you again in the new year.